You need China, Russia, the US, Japan and South Korea round the table engaging with North Korea. Otherwise, this problem is not going to get solved. And the interesting thing here is, you know, for the first time ever, China is starting to distance herself from North Korea. For instance, exports to North Korea, it's the lifeline, right? It's where they get their food from, have been down 13.8% or something over the last month.
And we were getting reports yesterday, actually, that which weren't confirmed and were denied later, that perhaps they might consider closing the border with North Korea to foreign tourists, yeah. and China also ratcheting up its own rhetoric, saying do not cause chaos in the region.
And you know, he's doing the worst thing for his economy, is closing down the special economic zone with South Korea, which again got him valuable dollars that he needed to keep, you know, people are hungry in North Korea. This is not, you know, if you look at the state of the North Korean economy, it's very, very serious.
Gulf News front page, Syria group reveals links with Al-Qaeda. This is quite a change, isn't it?
No, it's not surprising. I mean, al-Nusra says, you know, the leader of al-Nusra has pledged his allegiance to al-Zawahiri, who is the sort of the Osama bin Laden front, not the Iraqi front of al-Qaeda. You know, these are very complex countries. It's not Switzerland. It's not the United Kingdom. There are so many factions and factions and factions, and we saw it in Iraq, you know. People said, oh, we need to go in Iraq to combat terrorism. Well, Saddam Hussein, vile as he was no friend of Osama bin Laden, and he was no friend of Al-Qaeda's. And with him going, the vacuum helped Al-Qaeda come into Iraq. So, you know, when you upset these dictators, some bad things can happen.
Well, this makes it difficult, though, for the West, doesn't it? You know, it's supposed to be, or has been debating supporting the rebels, but not along the lines of them allying themselves with Al-Qaeda.
Absolutely, it makes it difficult, but you know, you saw it in Syria, you saw it in Iraq, you saw it in Afghanistan. These are complex countries, and the people you get in bed with may not be the people that you want to be in bed with. But may I just go back about 20 years to Afghanistan, where in the beginning we, the West, supported Osama bin Laden because we wanted to get the Russians out.
Interesting. Anyway, we're keeping an eye on that story, obviously. Let's have a look at International Herald Tribune. Europe trying to toughen stance on tax havens, led by French President François Hollande. Obviously, it's a very topical subject, tax havens and, you know, where and when and how and who. Give us your take on this push by Mr. Hollande.
It's particularly topical for Mr. Hollande because he has a serious egg on his face, because his economic minister had sort of 600,000 euros undeclared sitting in some bank account somewhere. Oops. And so that was not good. He said, I'm done with corruption, everybody will declare, and so one of his key people. So now he needs to come up and have very bellicose rhetoric against tax havens.
But what is he actually saying? Because this is looking at you know, not just tax havens that France is necessarily linked with, but, you know, isn't it a global sort of stance? We're talking about 5 countries here, France, Britain, Germany, Italy and Spain, agreeing to exchange banking data, create their own automatic tax data exchange, all this kind of thing.
That makes sense, but this was long coming. And if you look at countries like Switzerland, they've sort of given up on banking secrecy altogether and sort of caved in. So now the guys who sort of hide money are the Brits and the wee British in Cayman Islands and so on, and some of the US jurisdictions. So, you know, fine. I think we should get rid of tax havens. It's a good initiative. Let's hope we can do it.
Let's talk about Mr. Cameron's relationship with European leaders. Now, he had to cut short a visit to Europe. He had a meeting, I think, with François Hollande. I think I'm correct in saying that this week, but the death of Lady Thatcher brought him back home. And obviously we had a debate in Parliament yesterday. But now he is taking his family to meet with Angela Merkel in their version of, I suppose, what the UK would refer to as checkers.
Yes, absolutely. Well, that's very good, and you know, it's Cameron needs friends in Europe, and Merkel needs a new best friend, because she had Sarkozy, and there was this traditional French, you know, this traditional French Kohl Mitterrand, this traditional French-German alliance. And that's now with Hollande and Merkel is rather frosty, so she needs another ally, and I think they share quite a few views. However, in terms of Cameron wanting to renegotiate European treaties, Merkel is not that in favour of it, because it's just too complex.
There was Merkozy. I don't know how we could merge Cameron and Merkel. Merkel?
Comical.
Comical. Oh,
that is, you're being unkind.
Sorry. Well, let's
He's our Prime Minister.
Let's look at the Financial Times, looking at the fact that Cyprus took the step to sell large quantities of gold in a bid to try and help itself out. Obviously, it's been recently bailed out, and gold yesterday posting its biggest one-day drop after Cyprus sold most of its reserves.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're probably doing the right thing in terms of selling the family silver.
And you get a good price for it these days.
Yeah, exactly. It's better. We sold it when we got a bad price.
Exactly.
So at least they're selling it at a good price. So it's probably the right thing to do.
Is it the start of a trend? Because it's the first one, isn't it?
I think it probably is the start of a trend. But you know, I have to hail the South Koreans. Remember when we had the Asian debt crisis, which in South Korea was referred to as the IMF crisis, oddly enough. You know, they said to the people, send us your gold, and the South Koreans sent their jewelry and helped pay down the debt. So I mean, you know,
a good move then to try and get your finances back in order.
But
in your view,
if we only could get the sort of the Europeans, the wealthy Europeans, to help their countries, like the South Koreans did.
Okay, well, we'll keep an eye on that, because central banks, as a rule, it says here, they've looked to ring fence their gold
reserves,
stocks,
yeah,
and all that kind of thing. So we'll keep an eye. Anyway,
so are you a fan? Are you a fan? Does this inspire you when you look at these images? We've had so many images of Mr. Putin bare-chested in ice-cold environments. Now he's cuddling big dogs or fighting them. I'm not really quite sure.
I like big dogs. So
does he, obviously.
I see nothing wrong. I see nothing wrong. But he's action man, and he's clearly sort of starting the hype for you know, the Winter Olympics in Russia. So
we've got more pictures of him in action.
Look,
here
he is. He is the action man.
Fantastic.
Do you think this really makes a difference for his standing in Russia in terms of, you know,
it may amongst certain swathes of the population and the countryside. Who knows?